In this video, I would like to introduce the idea of functions. So I want to take a quick look so you get an idea of it conceptually before we dive into the code. And so this is what it kind of looks like. So if this orange section is your main code, which is, pretty much everything that we've been doing up until now would have been in, your orange section. Well, a function is something like a little chunk of code here, this blue part that's off to the side, not really related to the main part, but if you want, you can use the code from the main part to get at some of this code inside the function. So this blue part, this lines of code in here, is called the function definition. Okay, so function definition. And what we would typically do is we would go into our main code here and write some random code, maybe some more random lines of code. And then all of a sudden I say, okay, I want to use the stuff in this blue section. So I'm going to do what's called a function call. Okay. So function definition and function call are two different things. And you need to get this straight in your head. So function definition is basically this chunk of code. Function call is the thing that's in your main code that says, hey, right now, I want to go into my function and do those code right now. So that's what a function call is, as opposed to the function definition. Okay, so you're going to do this line of code, and then you're going to do this line of code, and then the computer's going to come here and say, oh, function call, okay, no problem. I'm going to go here into the blue section, and I'm going to do this line of code, and I'm going to do this line of code, and I'm going to do this line of code. Okay, I've reached the end of the blue section. I've reached the end of my function definition. I come back to my orange section, and I do the next line of code. Next line of code. And then you might have more random code. And then after that, you might call that function again. So there's another function call. So computer will say, oh, function call? Okay, no problem. I'll go over to the blue section, do this line of code, do this line of code, and then do this line of code. And then I'll come back to the orange section and do more regular code. Okay, so that's what's happening here. So in this case, this blue chunk of code gets executed twice, because there is a function call there, and then another function call there. Okay. So that's what we're kind of doing. These two chunks of code, the orange one and the blue one, are pretty much totally separate, and so we have to make sure that we don't mix them up. If variables in the orange section will not be in the blue section, and variables in the blue section will not be in the orange section. So that's something to keep in mind. But it is possible for us theoretically to send some information from the orange section to the blue section, and it's also possible to send some information from the blue section back to the orange section, and we'll show you how that works in future videos. But for now, let's just get kind of the basic function code going. Okay, so I'm going to go into my Thonny now. So I'm going to make a function definition. So function definition starts with the words def for function definition. Then I need the name of my function. So the name of my function that I'm going to do right now is going to be say cleanup routine. Okay, that's the name of my function, cleanup routine. And then after that, I always need brackets. For now, we're not going to put anything in the brackets. We're just going to leave it empty. In future lessons, we'll be looking at what to put in there. And then it has a colon. Okay, so this is how the first line of any function definition is always going to start. Def, name of function, brackets, colon. Okay, and then all the lines of code underneath here are part of the function definition. So say print turn out the lights, print wipe the counters, and print lock the door. Okay, this is my cleanup routine. Okay, so this is all for my function definition, and how we know that the function definition ends is that my next line is not going to be indented. So it's very similar to the if and the loops and stuff, in that the indentation is what differentiates different sections of the code from each other. Okay, so now that my function definition is done, I can write my regular code. So I don't know, maybe this is like a regular day, so I'm going to say cook the food, and then we'll print serve the food, and then we'll say clear the tables, and then I want to do my cleanup routine, and so I'm going to do a function call. Function call looks like this. Okay, so function call has the name of the function and then the brackets, and that's it. Okay, so we can run it, and we can see, here we go, the main function, cook the food, serve the food, clear the tables. That's from our main program here. And then I've coded my cleanup routine, which means that the computer is going to go, oh, I know what to do. I'm going to go up to the cleanup routine definition and do all the code in here. Turn out the lights, wipe the counters, lock the door. And there it is. Turn out the lights, wipe the counters, lock the door. Now I can actually call it twice. For example, I can say cleanup routine again. Okay, so to call it again, I just do the function call again. Simple as that. And we'll run it, and you can see that chunk of code where it tells you the lights, counters, and doors. It happens there, and then it also happens there. So it happens twice. If you want, you can put stuff, in between here. We can print a blank line. We can print a couple of blank lines. You can put something after this. Print goodbye. Okay, and we can run that. And you can see it kind of works, right? So here's the first one, lights, counters, doors. Printed 2 blank lines. That's your, right here, 2 blank lines. And then it's printed those things again, light, counter, door. So that came from this function call. And then goodbye, that's our last line of code in the main function. And so that's how you do a function definition and a function call. Okay, I just want to point out one quick thing, which is I mentioned before that you can't really use variables, and so yeah, like in my main function, let's just so I could have, for example, in my function, I could have like a response equals input kind of thing. Type something, and then I want to maybe print it in my main function. Let's see if that works. Yeah, so what happened is you have an error, line 12. So here's my line 12. Print response did not work. Why? Because here's the error, name response is not defined. Response is not defined. Well, it is defined right here, right? And in fact, if I put this line in here inside the function, it will work. Type something, hello, so it types hello. But if we put this line of code in, not in the function, but in the main code, it doesn't work. Why? Because the things inside the function are inside the function, and we can't see it outside the function. So we can't use that variable outside the function to be able to visualize, we're defining that that variable inside this blue box, but this blue box, this orange box cannot see what is inside this blue box. So that's why it's not, that's why we had that error. Okay, so you have to be careful. Sometimes if you have things in the orange box, the blue box can potentially see it in Python, but it's not a great idea to be doing stuff like that unless you're passing it through properly, which we'll show you in future lessons. Okay, so in conclusion, function definition, function call, and that's the main thing that I would like you to get out of this episode is, the difference between definition and call and how to actually go about using them. All right, so that's all for this lesson, and we'll see you in the next one.